Carl in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, Carl, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. And you know what your first block, you were going through all those things that the Republican Party is doing. It's been so much that you even left out that on the day of President Obama's inauguration, these guys had two separate meetings in the House and Senate, Republicans, on how they were going to, obstruct everything. Stand in this way. Don't let anything pass. Let's not get anything done.
Yep.
And, you can't. And then on top of all of this, at the end of the day, they nominated a sociopath.
Yep.
And I'm not being funny. I'm not joking. I'm being very serious.
Yes.
This party has been at the root of all the ills of our country. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I know what Reaganomics did to the black community. And I'm sitting and I'm watching this guy last night, Donald Trump, in a city that's 95% white, in a crowd that was 99.9% white. The only reason why it wasn't 100% because one of the reporters was black, talking at the black community in America. And one of his solutions is more police.
Yeah.
And then blaming the Democratic Party for the ills of black people in America. This is what they brought upon themselves. This is what they brought on our country. This trickle-down economics, this selfish-ass Ayn Rand policies that they all subscribe to. Don't let them ever fool you. They are what Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
And
they
do so much that if you try to pass this on as a book or to a movie exec, they will laugh you out of the office and say, this can't be real, so we can't do anything like this. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And like I said, I'm not being hyperbolic here. I'm not being...
Oh, I'm agreeing with you.
They deserve the slow politically.
I'm absolutely agreeing with you, Carl. I would add to that, though, and you pointed out the damage that Reaganomics did to communities of color in this country, because the Great Society was really just, it was just, we were a generation into the Great Society, and it was just starting to really help bring up, to strengthen the black middle class in this country. And it was also strengthening the white middle class, frankly, and it was dealing with poverty in white communities. And I would say that white communities have been devastated, at least working class communities, by Reaganomics as well. And this is this piece Justin Guest wrote for Politico called Why Trumpism Will Outlast Trump. And they went out and they asked a bunch of voters. He said, I solicited white Americans' support for Donald Trump, but also for a hypothetical third party dedicated to, quote, stopping. In other words, he did a questionnaire for white people saying there's a third party being formed, and here's what they believe in. Quote, stopping mass immigration, providing American jobs to American workers, preserving Americans' Christian heritage, and stopping the threat of Islam. This is the platform of the UK's ultra-right-wing British Nationalist Party, only put in American terms. 65% of white people said they agree with that. Now, I think that probably the biggest thing that they're agreeing with is providing American jobs to American workers. But the reality is that there's this large base of really pissed off white people out there as well, and because they've seen their jobs devastated by Reaganomics too. And Donald Trump is pumping that white rage, and he's directing a lot of that white rage to communities of color. It's a variation on, back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when politicians like George Wallace were running around and Pat Buchanan were running around saying, those black people want to take your job, to the white union workers back when unions were segregated. And it's just, this is an old playbook, Carl. We've seen this before.
The irony of the whole situation here is that the quote unquote, what the media uses, the hard working class, angry white voter in the Rust Belt the Reagan Democrats. The ironic thing about that, damn it, it's been 40 years that you've been Reagan Democrats, and it's only going downhill since you switched. That right there is something as a black person in America, and it pisses me off to no end when I hear them talking about the angry, white middle class worker in this country and the outrage that they felt. Try being black in America for 400 years, you whiny little babies, and shut up.
Yeah.
I mean, really. So for the past 40 years, you've been a so-called Reagan Democrat. I mean, Reagan Republican. How has that worked for you? How has switching over from the Democratic Party over to the Republican Party? How has that worked for you for the past 40 years? That you use a Sarah Palin. How is that hopey changey doing for you? It can't be doing good for you because we're still talking about you in the Rust Belt over the past 40 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And by the way, a large chunk of the Rust Belt is not just angry white people who have lost their manufacturing jobs. There's a lot of black people who lost their manufacturing jobs. Detroit used to be the richest city in America.
Yeah.
Literally the richest city in America, the highest average per capita income.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize that a lot of those manufacturing car jobs, big factory jobs, didn't move out of the country. They moved to other parts of the country. They moved here in the South, where you could get cheaper labor, and where you have these right to work states like here in Tennessee, where they couldn't unionize and get a proper profit sharing like they did in the North with unions. So
right.
It's almost like their anger is so misdirected, and they're so easily manipulated by rich white people.
I agree,
it's hard to watch.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Carl, and I put a lot of blame for this at the feet of our media, because they're just not telling the story of what Republicans are actually up to. They will occasionally, Carl, thank you for the call. They will occasionally talk about, Democrats being in favor of this or opposed to that. But usually they don't even talk about Democratic policies, because when you talk about Democratic Party policies, most people agree with them. Most people disagree with Republican policies.